Konnichiwa. I'm the Lost Otaku, and this is One Piece Birthdays and Theories. Okay, so by now it's more like birth months and theories. But I owe you guys part 2 of Sanji's video. I had technical difficulties with uploading it, the part 1, so it didn't get uploaded to YouTube until the evening of March 2nd, so I couldn't work on editing the second part, which I had filmed, but while I was editing it, I realized I forgot something that Alexandria talked about in part 1, and I was going to elaborate on in part 2. Anyway, let's get into the intro and talk about the rest afterwards. Okay, so first things first. Once again, if you are not completely caught up with the manga or Japanese anime, meaning if you are a Funimation English dubbed only fan, shame on you, the Japanese is better. No, I'm kidding. I enjoy watching both of them, but the Japanese is better. However, for me, it's slower to watch because I am a slow reader. That said, I am not using a teleprompter, so this video is a bit of an experiment to see how well that goes. Let me know if I should keep using the teleprompter or stick with how I normally do things. Anyway, if you are not caught up, leave now. Anyhow, today I'll be reading from 2 theories that have the same idea but both give different reasons that could cause it. Now, like I said in the last video, I am a Sanji fan that can accept the fact that Zoro is in fact stronger than Sanji. He acts as first mate, he better be the stronger one. Yes, I said acts and not is. Stop looking at me like that. Oda said it first. But I can't accept that it's a huge gap like a lot of people thinks it is. Is it a bigger gap than the one between Zoro and Luffy? Probably. But not that much bigger. That said, this theory will make Sanji the strongest Straw Hat if it is proven true, which I highly doubt, but it's still a fun and interesting idea. Okay. Now that I gave you people that are behind enough time to leave, let's get on with the theories. Like last time, I'll be stopping to add my own 2 cents here and there. To save on time, I'll be skipping stuff that repeats unless it goes into more depth. The links to these will be in the description below. Okay, here's theory 1. The True Power of Vinsmoke Sanji by Wise Mofo 69. This theory is dedicated to Sanji and his fans. I'll show you how special Sanji is and what kind of hidden power he truly has. So here we go. Grab your popcorn and everyone enjoy. No, seriously. Pause this video right now and get your popcorn or whatever your favorite movie watching snack is. Did you go get it? Good, let's begin. In an early SPS, Oda was questioned about the purpose of Sanji's defining eyebrows. His response is far more telling than it seems, and may just now be nearing its open revelation in the series. Wait, are you telling me that his curly eyebrows aren't a result of the experiments he was forced to go through before he was even born? Because him and his siblings all have the curly eyebrows, but his parents did not. So it has to be caused by the experiments, right? Are you telling me that the fact that he's the only one of his siblings whose eyebrows curl clockwise is not because the experiments failed on him? That's what I thought caused the curled eyebrows in him and his siblings. Which might be right or might be partially right. Let's continue. As a matter of fact, it may provide a stellar clue to possibly reveal the secret of Sanji's ability that has stumped One Piece readers since his leg first burst into flames back at Enies Lobby. The SPS in question is from Volume 7, Chapter 55. Why does Sanji's eyebrows curl up at the end? Please give a real answer. Oda's response was, "Hey you, sit right there. Now listen, everyone lives in circles. The sun, the moon, and the earth all spin around. And if the earth suddenly stopped spinning, it would be a disaster. Tidal waves everywhere. Now, remember that Sanji's eyebrows channeled that circular energy. Reflect upon this. You may go. Like I just said, I thought maybe it had to do with the genetic enhancements Judge tried to give all his kids but filled with Sanji. However, I did not factor in the fact that all the circular energy Oda was talking about had to do with space. As the community of theorists clearly knows, Oda left his readers reflecting and speculating for hundreds of chapters. Secrets have surrounded Sanji ever since. Oda only added fuel to the fire, like the famous secret teased in the cover page of chapter 124, which I will come back to later. Another popularly discussed cover page came with chapter 533, where the focus is centered on the UFO search Sanji and friend, a goat, are carrying out, one of at least 2 stargazing covers in which Oda has featured Sanji in. Probably just as interesting a clue is the chapter's title, Level 4, The Inferno Hell. As we know, Sanji is associated with both an inferno, flames he has shown to be able to produce since fighting Jibra during the Enies Lobby arc, and with hell, most notably in association with his diablo djembe, I hope I pronounced that right, French for devil leg, and they forgot hell memories. This cover page provided a clue that led many theorists to claim that Sanji is an alien. So a prince from planet Twirly Brows, and maybe even a celestial dragon. Those were excellent, well-supported theories. However, both of these ideas are losing steam due to recent revelations in current chapters. Nonetheless, Sanji's connection with space has yet to be completely debunked. When contemplating the reason Oda would choose to have Sanji's eyebrows swirl clockwise instead of the common trend of counterclockwise curling brows with his siblings. I already told you, it's because the experiments failed on Sanji. Geez, how many times must I say it? I suddenly remembered a fact that seems to connect all of the clues mentioned so far. Most planets in our solar system have a counterclockwise rotation, but one key planet has a unique clockwise retrograde rotation, Venus. Venus is a virtual hell. It is the hottest planet in our solar system, even though it isn't even the closest to the sun. Venus is so hot, even lead metal will melt on its surface. Furthermore, a thick smoke-like atmosphere surrounds the planet. Lastly, Venus is the name of the ancient Greek mythological goddess of love. Stop. Correction. Aphrodite is the Greek goddess of love, I believe. Venus is Aphrodite's Roman counterpart, but is basically the same person. Well, goddess. Just different names. This is a perfect trifecta for our fire-producing, cigarette-smoking love cook. On a side note, Venus even loosely connects to Sanji's secret suitcase. In 1830, Venus was in conjunction with the sun. Also, a famous sculpture of the goddess Venus was made. Oda does like his Easter eggs. We've seen the Vinsmokes involved in cloning, genetic modifications, technological enhancements, advanced medicine, etc., etc. So attempting to utilize cosmic or space powers for one of their princes would befit their obvious science focus. It would also connect to Oda's statement in the SPS that Sanji's eyebrows channel the same energy as those in the celestial bodies. However, this could only work if the other siblings fit the pattern. Each of the main fields of science could have been referenced with the Vinsmoke royals. Poison Pink Reiju has already revealed a biology connection with hints of a butterfly/moth ability. It may not stop there since she had no problem processing poison from a fish. I could be wrong, but I think it's safe to assume that Reiju can eat and or drink all known poisons. Her epithet itself kind of tells us that. She is poison pink after all. Sparking Red Ichiji could easily have a chemistry theme utilizing the elements, chemical reactions, and even radioactivity. In Ichiji's Vivre card, we learned that Ichiji has light powers and not the originally believed powers of explosion. Light is an element, and there are chemicals that can be mixed to produce light. So this theory can work. Many animals, insects, and even plants have what science calls bioluminescence. Usopp, could you please name some of these organisms that have bioluminescence? Sure it is. I don't recall anybody ever calling you that. While he's listing those, let's talk about the 3 chemicals a bioluminescence organism needs. This chemical reaction requires one of 2 chemical combinations, luciferin and luciferase, and luciferin and photoprotein. So who's to say that HG can't produce one of these 2 combinations? However, even though this is my idea, I have one problem with it. Bioluminescence is a cold light, which means less than 20% of the light generates thermal energy, which means it can't burn anything. Have you ever been burnt by a firefly? No, I didn't think so. HG's light is meant to be used as a weapon. If it is some form of bioluminescence, and bioluminescence doesn't produce enough heat to even be felt, then how does HG's light hurt and even kills his enemies? Maybe Judge added a 3rd chemical to the equation, or even more chemicals. Anywho, let's get on to the other brothers. Electric Blue Niji clearly has power stemming from the electric and magnetic forces of physics. In case you don't know, each one of those can produce the other. If these fit, Windscreen Yonji's weird epithet would finally be explained. If it connects to an engineering theme with technology and mechanical powers being used. Might I add, this one was kind of already proven when the Vinsmoke siblings helped Sanji and Luffy escape from Whole Cake Island. Yonji's sunglasses, which he only wears with his raid suit, showed 1s and 0s like a computer coding. Because the only thing a computer knows is the numbers 1s and 0s, put into various combinations, 1s and 0s make the computer language, called binary code. Or, for those of you who don't know, data using a 2-symbol system, the symbols often being 1s and 0s. And while his powers seem to be superhuman strength, only seconds after the sunglasses acted as a computer and changed Yonji's binary code, did his arms and fingers do what kind of looked like, or at least to me it does, Frankie's strong right with a combination of Luffy's Gum Gum pistol and fishnet, and I think someone else whom I can't remember. So his hands detach from his arm and stretched out with a chain that looks more like it should be there than Frankie's strong right chain. But unlike Frankie, Yonji can extend his reach farther by detaching different points of his fingers, like Luffy can stretch, well, his entire body. However, Yonji's ability obviously has nothing to do with rubber. Furthermore, each of the main fields of science are easily represented by animals and plants that may have been used in the genetic modifications of each of the 4 successful siblings. For example, the obvious poisonous/venomous animals, creatures that use chemical warfare, like the bombardier beetle, electricity generating knifefish, also known as the electric eel, etc., etc. However, one branch of science fails to be represented successfully by any of the known living things: space science. Now this is where the theory gets interesting. Perhaps Judge attempted to overcome this gap by applying what he learned in his work with the team of scientists that worked alongside Vegapunk. Okay, before I continue, I just want to say we know absolutely nothing, zero, zip, zilch, about what Sanji's genetic enhancements were supposed to be. Yes, it could have been fire, which means he was, like others think, a late bloomer. Which, now that we know Ichiji is light and not explosions, I can support more. Don't you dare start the fire and explosions are 2 completely different things. They are like electricity and magnets. They go hand in hand. Because they both can cause the other. Or it could have been invisibility, or chameleonization, as I said in part 1, which is suggested by his raid suit and childhood dream of eating the clear fruit. The dream could have been a subconscious knowledge of what he was supposed to be able to do. But how do we know if his raid suit powers actually reflects what he should have been capable of? Or his dream was his subconscious talking? I mean, the author of the Sora Warrior of the Sea manga, yes, the English translation says comic, but I like manga better. Deal with it. Could have just made Stealth Black up for the sake of preventing a mysterious missing number 3, as I liked to call Stealth Black before we even knew of his existence. Yeah, they could have went to Judge and asked about Sanji, and Judge could have said something like, yeah, he died when he was 7, he was supposed to have chameleonization or invisibility, call him Stealth Black. But somehow I doubt that. So even now that we know so much more about Sanji than we did, he still is shrouded in maybe not secrets, but mysteries. The technology used to manipulate the Vinsmoke siblings has been revealed as the same for manipulating Smile, the lineage factor, that probably connects the swirling pattern on the devil fruits to their curly eyebrows. But aren't the marks on a Smile yellow rings rather than the swirling pattern of the devil fruit? There could also be a connection to another major mysterious force of the One Piece world. Venus shares its retrograde rotation with one other planet, Uranus. This cosmic energy that may fuel Sanji's limitless power, as Vinsmoke Judge claimed his children possessed in Chapter 804, 840, could also be linked to the ultimate power. Could Judge have been dangerously close to unraveling the mysteries of one of the ancient weapons? If so, do the Straw Hats now already possess a connection to all 3? How much was Sanji's bounty before he got his 330 million berry bounty? 177 million. What degree does Venus rotate on its axis? 177 degrees. Coincidence? Possibly. I feel like they should have said that while they were talking about Sanji's connection to Venus. So in summary, 1. Oda referenced Sanji's powers as to being related to cosmic forces. 2. Sanji is the only Vinsmoke sibling with both eyebrows curling clockwise, like the rotation of the planet Venus, in which he shares several key characteristics with. 3. The Vinsmoke siblings each relate to one of the main fields of science. Reiju, biology, Ichiji, chemistry, Niji, physics, Yonji, technology. Could Sanji be cosmics? 4. Vinsmoke Judge may have modified his children using advancements learned while working with Vegapunk and team. Not probably. Yonji confirmed this. Five. Although Judge thinks he failed to infuse Sanji with cosmic powers via the lineage factor, he may have unwittingly tapped the power of the ancient weapon Uranus. And now, Theory 2. Sora's bloodline carries the power of Uranus, like how Neptune's bloodline carries the power of Poseidon, which Sanji inherited. Sanji is Uranus. By Mega Shadow Dragon. Given that R and L letters are interchangeable in the Japanese language, which is why Luffy is sometimes translated to Rufy, Sola's name might actually be Sora. Sora's bloodline carries the power of Uranus, much like how Neptune's carried the power of Poseidon, which Shirahoshi awakened, inherited, and awoken, becoming Poseidon. 1. Sora means sky in Japanese, which adds to Sanji naming his technique Skywalk. There are now 3 reasons that I can think of that could have caused Sanji to change the name to Skywalk and not Moonwalk. Reason 1 is the reason I thought of the first time we see Sanji using it at Fishman Island. Sanji's kindness made it hard for him to call it Moonwalk because he didn't want to remind Robin of her painful past, which involved people, CP9, who used the same technique. Same as in quotations, because of reason 3. 2, he chose Skywalk in memory of his late mother, Sora, which means sky in Japanese. 3, Skywalk might not even be quite the same technique as Moonwalk, because it feels as if it came a little bit too easy for Sanji. Rob Lucci told Luffy that it took CP9 their entire life to master Moonwalk, Finger Pistol, and all the other techniques they used. It only took Sanji less than 2 years to accidentally stumble across Skywalk without even trying to. You might say, well, he had trained with Zeph for 11 years. Maybe that's why it seems to take so little time. Yeah, that's believable, but Zeph doesn't even know how to use Moonwalk that we know of. And if he did, I'm sure while fighting CP9, Sanji would have said something like, Moonwalk? I've seen that technique in action before. I know how it works. It's no surprise to me. The shifty old geezer back at the restaurant used it when he was still a pirate and attacked Orbit. Couldn't use it after losing his leg, though. I said shiffy. Just because my channel is set as not intended for children doesn't mean I'm not going to censor. Don't mention that name in front of me again. I have quite a few choice words I'd like to say to him. You know what? Go get him for me.
Kanjuro, you are a disgrace to all artists. I will never forgive you for using art for evil. Don't remind me. Hey, don't say that in front of him. Get out of here, Kanjuro. You too, Alexandria. I need to finish this video. Sky in Greek is written like this and pronounced Oranos, which is the actual name in Greek for what the rest of the world uses as Uranus, the primal Greek god personifying the sky. This might be the reason that Judge chose Sora to be the bearer of the Vince Book children, to keep her bloodline. And possibly Judge fell in love with her later or after he made the decision, etc., etc. Judge loves Sora. I'm not sure about that. The way that he treated Sora before forcing her into the surgery that genetically enhanced her sons, and the way he acted towards Sanji after she died, it just doesn't feel like he actually loved her.
Because she is of the ancient weapon Uranus's bloodline, and from what Judge says, he wants his children to be the ultimate weapons, the ultimate killing machines. So Sanji inherited the power of Uranus. Some of you might have noticed that Zoe has some similarities with Water 7. Both of them have a water city theme to them, and both have a huge wave going through them at specific times. Water 7 has Aqua Laguna, while Zoe has the Rain Eruption. Also, Inuyarashi and Nekomamushi parallel to Frankie and Iceberg. They reminded me of Zoro and Sanji, but now that they mention it, it is more like Frankie and Iceberg. They had a master that had a connection to Goldie Roger, connections being Frankie and Iceberg, master being Tom, who built Gold Roger's ship, not to mention Frankie and Iceberg both have met Roger before. Inuyarashi and Nekomamushi's master being Odin, not to mention they themselves were members of Gold Roger's crew. They were on bad terms with each other after their masters died. Well, Iceberg and Frankie were always on bad terms. However, it got worse after Tom died. Iceberg is the mayor of Water 7, while Frankie rolled over the underground stuff. I think this represents day and night. The Frankie house even had a crescent moon on it. Plus, in both arcs, there were possible traitors and or spies, like with the whole CP9 thing, and the talk about a possible traitor in Zoe. There are still more similarities, but anyway. We now know that the traitor was Kanjuro and not one of the minks, which means Carrot is off the hook. Shame on all of you who thought the adorable Carrot was the traitor. Don't you people know It's always the weird looking ones. Raizo, get out of here. It was the least weird looking one of the two. You're the weirdest looking. So you don't apply to this scenario. Kanjuro, however, does. Okay, so I really was not expecting it to be Kanjuro. In fact, I was still expecting it to be one of the minks. Don't ask me why there was a lot of signs that said it's one of the scabbards. But I didn't really take any of that into account. It never once crossed my mind that it could have been one of the 9 scabbards. I mean, can you blame me? Have you seen and get lost, don't be stubborn. And, well, it's a little messy down there. So, I mean, Raizo's, not Raizo's, wait, where'd that one go? Oh, there he is. I lost Gray again. Found it! And in case you're wondering why I said found it, my intro, somewhere in the intro video, I know that's like an hour long, I said that I had this one but I couldn't find it. I found it. Oh! First and only realistic drawing of people. So, yeah, can you see why I was not expecting Kanjuro and really didn't want it to be Kanjuro, despite his art sucking? I've been doing this since before I should have been holding pencils. So, anytime there's an artist in anime, it's like, I don't really want it to be, no matter how bad their art sucks, I really don't want it to, them to be the bad guy. So, can you really blame me on this? On not expecting any of this? Or rather, not wanting any of this? Don't mind my hand being in the way. I went way off the teleprompter doing that, so now I gotta go back. Bad terms, already read that. Iceberg is... Okay. So, yeah, that said, now that we've got mild art show over, let's get back on topic here. Okay, wait for it to scroll. The most important thing I noticed is the parallel between Robin and Frankie and Momo and Sanji. During Water 7, both Robin and Frankie were a threat to the world government. This was because Robin could read the poneglyphs, which made it possible for her to revive the ancient weapon Pluton. And if you kind of think about it, not just Pluton, but if Uranus isn't a person. She could also revive Uranus, and so that statement doesn't just apply to Pluton. She also discovered Shirahoshi is the ancient weapon Poseidon, so she can bring back basically all the ancient weapons, even though Shirahoshi came back by herself. Poseidon came back by itself, but Robin discovered that she is in fact Poseidon, asking Neptune if she was Poseidon, and he confirmed it. Frankie had the blueprints to build another one, and then we found out on Zoe that Momo had a connection with the poneglyphs. His clan created them. On Whole Cake Island, we found out that Judge and Vegapunk found the blueprints of life, something the world government said was too dangerous. In reality, they probably really just wanted the technology for themselves because they arrested Vegapunk and forced him to work for them right when they found that out. So it's something like this. Robin and Momo equals connection with the poneglyphs. Frankie and Sanji equals blueprints of an ancient weapon, Pluton and Uranus. The goddess Venus, or Aphrodite, was born from the remains of the Roman and technically Greek god of Uranus, which provides even more evidence for Sanji's connection to Uranus. Remember what Sanji told Kuma when he and Zoro was both trying to sacrifice themselves to save Luffy back at Thriller Bark? Sanji said that he will be the one who will cause the most trouble for the Marines. In the Viz translation, he said he will cause more trouble than the rest of these guys together. And whatever translation is correct, I think it's foreshadowing to this. I actually thought that he was foreshadowing the fact that he was the number 3 of Germa Double Six, Stealth Black, Prince Vinsmoke Sanji of the Germa Kingdom, third-born son of Queen Vinsmoke Sora and King Vinsmoke Judge. But now that I'm really thinking about it, the world government will fear me more than all of the Straw Hats put together. Doesn't seem like it's foreshadowing something as, dare I say, harmless as being a Prince of Germa. The world government let them attend Reverie after all. They were affiliated with the world government until recently, so it could be partially meaning that, but at the same time meaning something more.
Zekers, you're being noisy. What you doing, bud?
This next section is basically a repeat from the first theory about his eyebrows and Venus, but the first one had more details, so you can just read that by clicking the link in the description below if you want. And this one that I am going to read, it's still about Venus, but it wasn't in the first theory. The Latin word Lucifer, which is the Christian name for the devil, meaning morning star. The planet Venus is also referred to as the morning star and associated with Lucifer. So it fits in with Sanji's Satan theme. They have a link to another thing they wrote about Sanji representing Satan, but I'm not going to get into that now. You can go read that if you want. I, for one, haven't yet and not quite sure, and I'm not quite sure if I'm actually going to, but that's also in the link below. This is repeating some, but they added to it, and I'm going to add to it as well. So I'll read it anyways. On a side note, Venus even loosely connects to Sanji's secret suitcase, and the secret could relate to Uranus, which is a big secret. In 1830, Venus was in conjunction with the Sun. Also, a famous sculpture of the goddess Venus was made. Oda does like his Easter eggs, and yes, that was the exact, they both repeated that. Honestly, these could be by the same person, but I'm not 100% sure. They were from 2 different websites, they had 2 different names, author names, but it still could be by the same person. Just like they could have wrote the one and then they're like, oh wait, maybe it wasn't that, maybe it wasn't quite that Judge came up with it, accidentally stumbled upon it by the genetic modifications, but maybe it's more like it was in Sora's family and that's why he chose Sora, and not the fact that there was something about her body that she was the only person he could find that could handle the genetic enhancements. The goddess Venus, or Aphrodite, was born from the remains of the Roman god of Uranus, and Sanji kept his humanity thanks to Sora's sacrifice, which ended up costing her her life. So the Sanji we know was born thanks to Sora's sacrifice. Now, I'm going to elaborate on this a little more. The goddess of love, Venus, was born from the remains of the god Uranus. Much like Sanji, as well as Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji, was born of the remains of Sora. Now you may be thinking, wait, what? Sora wasn't dead when the Vinsmoke quadruplets were born. You're right, but she was very sick from the drugs she took to try to save her 4 sons. Thus, health-wise, she was only a fraction of the person she once was. So Sanji inherited Sora's will, so it would fit for Sanji to be the one to inherit the power of Uranus, which provides even more evidence for Sanji's connection to Uranus. Plus, Uranus was the god of the sky, and Sora means sky, which equals skywalk. It also talks about Sanji's 177 million berry bounty, but we already talked about that. But we didn't talk about how the planet Uranus is completely blue, and Sanji's color theme is blue. And his dream is to find a place called the All Blue. And I would like to add this one minor detail that both theories seem to overlook. Does anyone remember the name of the passenger ship that Sanji escaped from Germa on? I've already said it, and I'm sure at least most of you do. It was Orbit. Yet another thing connecting to both space and Sanji. Okay, now both theories are done, and I want to explain how I think this could work. But first, a quick summary of both theories. Theory 1. Judge tapped into the power of Uranus through the genetic enhancements. Theory 2. Sora is of Uranus bloodline, or was, and Sanji will eventually awaken the power if he hasn't already, at least a little. Okay, so what I think, if this proves to be true, here's how this could work, which makes a little bit more sense to me, but Sora is not from Germa. She's from the Grand Line. Why do I say that? Because I believe all the ancient weapons are in, or at least originated in, the Grand Line. It would be really odd if Pluton and Poseidon are in the Grand Line and not Uranus. I also think that if Poseidon was royalty, then if Uranus is a living being as well, that person would also be royalty. Maybe while Judge was working with Vegapunk, assuming they were working in the Grand Line, he met a princess, which was Sora, and somehow he found out about her being of Uranus bloodline. He could have overheard her and or her family talking about Uranus, or Sora saw something in Judge, I don't know what, and fell in love with him and didn't want secrets between her and the man she loved, or something like that. And if Sora was a princess, they could have met at Reverie, or it could have been an arranged marriage that their parents set up. Anyway, however it happened, Judge and Sora got married, and Judge found out about Uranus. He then wanted to guarantee that one of his children awakened that power. So instead of it getting awakened farther down the line, like one of his grandchildren or great-grandchildren, he wanted it specifically to be his children. So he wanted to guarantee that one of his children awakened that power. So he used the research he did with Vegapunk to change his kid's lineage factors and hope to find what causes the power of Uranus, and ensure the genetic enhancements helped awaken it. Now, I'm going to discuss Reiju's Vivre card that opened up a lot of questions. Reiju was genetically modified in all the same ways as her brothers, which means, like her brothers, she should not be able to feel emotions like fear, empathy, sympathy, compassion, love. Well, her brothers feel love to a very, very small extent. Yes, this is in a sense a form of love, I guess. However, difference between Reiju and her brothers is that Sora was not bedridden and was able to help raise Reiju and teach her about these emotions. This leads to the question of why the hell did she need to take a drug that she knew was going to kill her? to save her sons from an emotionless life. That was her only problem with letting Judge give them genetic enhancements. Otherwise, she would have had a problem with him giving Reiju the enhancements as well. So if she could have just counteracted what Judge took from them by teaching them, why didn't she just do that? Why did she take a drug that she knew was going to kill her? Well, here's what I think. I think after Judge found out that Reiju was gaining emotions through Sora's teaching her, he went behind her back and did research on how to prevent a person from learning emotions after having them taken away through the genetic enhancements. And that's what Judge and Sora was fighting about the day that he forced her into having the surgery. She at least wanted them to have a 50-50 chance of gaining emotions, but Judge wanted a 100% chance of them not gaining emotions. And that is why Sora took the drug. It wasn't to counteract the enhancements. It wasn't to give them emotions. It was to make it so they could learn about and develop emotions. So the drug itself affected Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji, but it didn't affect Sanji at all. The reason Sanji is a failure is not Sanji's fault. It's not Sora's fault. It's not even the drug's fault. It was more like a grave error on Judge's part. He didn't think maybe Uranus wouldn't like the enhancements. Uranus protected Sanji from gaining the enhancements. Its power counteracted the effects of the drugs given to the children to change their lineage factor. So reflect upon that. As always, I'm the Last Otaku, and this is your Anime Theories. Sayonara. I told all of you to say month, not day. Sorry, Sanji. It was last minute, so it's boxed cake. But even so, I'm sure yours would be better than mine, even if mine was made from scratch. Very true. Yeah, I wanted to have a blue cupcake paper, but the only blue we had was these little tiny ones. How am I supposed to make cupcakes that can be seen on a small screen with these? So I went with Valentine ones because, well, we had a lot and it fits Sanji's personality. I put you in the thumbnail. That's good enough. You do realize this is patriotic funfetti with blue food colored in it, right? Not chocolate. Niji! You don't need one, you just want one. Be nice to Sanji and I'll make you one later. I'm talking to you, Niji! Jerks. Knock it off!